Okay, so now we're going to do the tomato pin cushion block. So you can see down here that I've already done the easy corner triangles on the bottom of the tomato pin cushion, but you cannot do these until we sew this row together and add it to the top. So these are just set to the side. And then these two squares I just sewed from corner to corner. So technically it's still like an easy corner triangle, but they end up being half square triangles because the squares were the same size. And so I laid it out. That's how it's going to, the green needs to be fanned out like that. So it's the little leaves. So I'm going to sew these two together first. Don't worry, it's such tiny pieces. It's just still a seam, still a 1/4 inch seam. As long as you can hold on to it, you can sew a 1/4 inch seam. And then I'm going to sew this top one. At the same time, before I add my little ender squares. Okay, now we're going to take these cute little pieces and press them open. This is where I really try to press on top instead of ironing so that I'm not distorting these little pieces. Okay, so these could easily get turned around, so I always have to look at my pattern, make sure they're going the right way. Okay, so now I can go ahead and sew these two on this side and these two on this side. So that's what I'm going to do. So see, even though they're tiny, they're just 1/4 inch seams. Doesn't matter if it's 1 inch long or 10 inches long, it's still the same size seam. Okay, I'm going to press these before I add the other size just because it's such a tiny little area to get into. Set that back there. Look at the pattern one more time, make sure everything's going the right way. Yep. That's why I find my design boards essential to sew with, because it gives me a chance to lay things back out after sewing and pressing in between stages, just to make sure that everything's going the right way, how it needs to go. Save me from unsewing. Okay. Give this one a press. Lay them back out here. Look at the pattern, make sure I haven't flipped this upside down. That looks good. Notice this side is longer than this side. That's to make room for the embroidered pins here. So now I can sew this piece onto here. I don't want to sew this top on yet because I need to sew this piece and then add the easy corner triangles to make the shape of the pin cushion. Seems like this is really when it comes in handy to have an open-toed foot so you can see exactly where your needle is going into that, so that you're not chopping off any points of your half square triangles. Okay, so we'll press this open and then we can add those corner squares to make easy corner triangles. Just checking under there to make sure everything's lying flat. I'm going to let it cool for just a second. A lot of little seams. Okay, now I can add the easy corner triangles. And again, whenever you're adding these, you just look at the pattern, make sure that you can see which direction to sew your lines. And follow this line right here so that you don't have to mark. Add this one to the other side. It's important to take your time when you're adding these and really make sure they're aligned on the corners here so that it's accurate when you unfold it. Okay, so I can go ahead, trim those off, press them open, and add this top piece. Okay, now we can add the last row. And I want to make sure that these seams line up in the center, right there on the side. Again, you can pin it or just hold it there, whichever you want to do. And right before I sew under, there we go. I can see exactly where my needle's going in, so I know I'm not running over any points. So see how there's a little section right here? I'm just going to push that under and so that I can ease that bottom piece under and make it fit. Having a hard time lining up those squares. There we go. Okay, so I've got it unfolded here, and I can see all those meet just fine, and so I can go ahead and press. This is probably the tiniest piecing section of the whole quilt, but as you can see, you can do it. It turns out fine. You just have to kind of fuss with it a little bit more than you normally would the other pieces. And then this one I definitely will put my ruler on in the bag and let it cool down. And that really helps it to remain flat. And there's your tomato pincushion.